Well, hello again everybody. So today's video isn't a normal video, it's just to say thank you to everybody who gave me help and support trying to get the logic analyzer here working. Now I actually got quite a lot of comments on this video, and I also had a thread running on the EV blog on the test equipment section, and I got an awful lot of help, but some of the stand-up people who helped me was David V. Now you'll probably see in the comments for the last video there was actually an exchange of 38 comments between myself and David at that time. So David managed to find a lot of the original backup files and things like that which he provided, and he also provided an awful lot of advice on how to install those files and the sequence we needed to install them in. That's all quite important, and I've got a list of those comments, and I am going to collate them into some kind of order. So if anybody has got one of these logic analyzers and wants help, advice or files going forward, if you contact me I will make a Dropbox available with lots of information in for you and the software and things like that to help you get up and running. Well, my room's looking very reminiscent of my bedroom probably in the 1990s. I've got bits of computer strewn across it. There's bits of computers and stuff I've ordered everywhere. We've got, what have we got? We've got some floppy drive here. We've got a computer with its guts hanging out. We've got another IDE to SD card converter. So we've got lots of bits of computers everywhere. Now I'd also like to thank a chap that runs a YouTube channel called PC Junkie, and I'm afraid I don't know what his name is, but we've had again an exchange of quite a bit of information, because we thought the original problem was the real-time clock inside this piece of equipment, because it has I don't know if it's a Dallas real-time clock. It's got a little black brick module, and that fails commonly, and apparently if that backup battery fails in the real-time clock, it loses some of the memory settings, the BIOS settings, and the equipment won't boot. So if you have got one of these pieces of equipment and it just won't boot, it's quite likely that that's a problem. I thought I would have a quick go at installing that solid state drive just to give it a sense check and see if it would work. So I've took the old hard drive out, the logic analyzer, and here it is. It's a little tiny hard drive. It says it's a model ST9840AG. Now lots of people on the EV blog forum provided help and advice for me, but one person who went the extra mile was a chap called JFJ. I don't know what his name is, but his tag is JFJ. And what he did was he provided a special file for me. Now this file is a file called KB Monet, and that file, you will require that if you've got one of the older logic analyzers. I think the idea is that you need that file if you want to install Windows 95, but actually my machine has been upgraded to Windows 98, but the encoder wheels on some of the controls still didn't work. And I've got to admit, for some reason I was under the impression, stupidly, that my machine had Windows 95 on it. It didn't, it had Windows 98. So I shouldn't have needed this file, but I couldn't get the control knobs on the front of the encoders to be read by the computer system. So what JFJ did, he sent me an older file, this older version of KB Monet, and I installed that and everything started working then. So I can't exactly explain it, but he helped me, and thank you very much. Now those of you that watched the previous videos will see that I couldn't get the logic analyzer to boot into Windows, and I pulled out the hard drive and I pronounced that it was dead because it wasn't even detectable in the BIOS by the drive setup, and I think that was a pretty logical thing to conclude. So I then went down the route of trying to get a solid state hard drive and install that and get it booting from the solid state hard drive. And I did actually manage to do that in the end, but what actually happened was I actually took the very original, the electromechanical IDE drive, I took that out and I got a cable arrive which allowed me to actually plug in the drive. It allowed me to plug it into an old Windows XP machine, and as soon as I plugged the drive in, it miraculously came to life, even though it was undetectable when it was in the logic analyzer. And that made me think, well, there's something funny going on here, because the logic analyzer wouldn't even detect it in the BIOS, and yet I can read it. I couldn't boot from it because it was a Windows 98 installation, and I'm guessing it was so totally different than the computer I had it plugged into. It tried to boot and then just crashed. but the drive was fully readable. I just mounted it as a drive, an extra drive, and I could see the contents, I could read to write to it, and I also did a disk check and a defrag while it was in there, and all I did was, knowing that it could possibly work, I put it back into the logic analyzer, and it just miraculously booted. And I did contact the people who I bought the equipment off, and the original thing that the chap said there, have you checked the IGE connectors because they come loose? And yes, I did check them. I actually unplugged them all and plugged them back in again, and it still didn't work. So I'm at total odds to explain what the original fault was. I'd love to say that I did a really smart repair and I installed a solid state drive and I did this and that. I didn't do that. It just worked. So sorry about that. Can't explain it. I wish I could. When I got it to boot into DOS, it was like, well, how do I change directories? It was like, oh yeah, CD backslash, and oh yeah, how do I make a disk readable to the system? Oh yeah, what is it, fdisk/s, and, all these DOS commands that I haven't used in at least 20 years. And actually that was really good fun. So if you get a chance to actually play with an old computer, have a go. You'll probably enjoy it, especially if you're as old as me and it's a bit of a trip down memory lane. Command.com that was on the disk drive, and we've got test.tx, so we can read it from DOS. And I'm guessing I could also type any of those DOS commands. I know there was people mentioned things like fdisk for format disk. I've got to admit, I can't remember how to do any of that, so maybe that's what I'm missing. Do I need to fdisk? Do I need to format the disk now? So when I did fire up the machine finally into Windows 98, I did actually just notice that it doesn't have a lot of disk capacity left. And I was going to do the usual thing of running check disk and all that lot, and I also clicked on the defragmentation tool. And when I actually run that, it says it's 0% defragmented, and that probably leads me to believe either it's been defragmented recently, which I doubt, or it's a fairly new installation of Windows 98, and I suspect that's probably more likely. I say it's a recent installation. I mean, it could have been installed years ago, but what I'm saying is I don't think it's run very often because it hasn't fragmented the disk at all. Yeah, out of a hard disk which is 800 megabytes, we've used 725 and we've only actually got 74 left. No doubt, having watched this logic analyzer video, you'd quite like to actually see the logic analyzer doing something, grabbing some data from a bus or something like that. But unfortunately, as you can see, we've just got some fresh air here, so we've got no acquisition modules yet. I've actually ordered some from America. Well, I've ordered one anyway, which I think is something like a 102-bit input card, something like that. Can't quite remember. The main reason I ordered it is because it was cheap. So I've ordered one just to try it, because when I actually ordered the piece of equipment, we had no idea whether it was going to fire up, and I didn't want to spend too much money on it at that time. So we've got one on order. As soon as it arrives, we will plug it in and we'll hopefully be able to get this logic analyzer to do something. But I think that's all for today. Just a final thanks for everybody who provided information. Lots of people left comments, and also lots of people helped me on the EV blog. So thanks for everybody there. You've done me a big favour. Thanks very much. But until next time, that'll do. Bye bye for now.